ultra success in life comes from being much more present and vibrant in the moment. What's your philosophy of how you're living your life? That's the bigger picture stuff that you keep orienting and aligning to. That's your guiding North Star stuff. You can do all the details of life and never feel fulfilled. When you feel the blessing of life and you live into the blessing of life, it's a whole different game. When you finally realize you have the gift of life and the promise of death. Life is short. I'm here, baby. So today's about building an operating system at a high level so that you know what you're after. See, you're building, directing, and operating the levers of your life. And the biggest part of personal development, you can go as far back as you want, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 30,000 years, is at some point, human beings decide to have a higher level of agency, to live more and to build and to create life and community with real intention. That's the evolution of the species. That's the gift is, oh, you have consciousness. Use it. You have consciousness. Decide what you want. When that really lands in you, it's like a whole new day. Everyone says, how do you transform people's lives? I'm like, I don't. I think I open up a gate. A life operating system begins with a life philosophy. And if you lack the philosophy, you can do all the details of life and never feel fulfilled. If you lack a life philosophy, you can have a good family, but it will never be an exceptional family. If you lack a philosophy of life, you'll have a good career, but it might not ever be your real life's work. And developing a philosophy, that's your guiding North Star stuff. That's the bigger picture stuff that you keep orienting and aligning to. It's what I taught in High Performance Habits that made that book so huge. I told the story of the woman who discovered that achievement wasn't her problem, just like it's not for most of us in this room. You can get things done. You can work that checklist. You got your planners and your journals and your tasks and your Post-it notes and all your things lined up on your desk to keep you on time to do the things. Many of you have many colored markers on your desk for no reason, like you're in high school. There's little stickers and you have so many things. But without a philosophy to tie it all together, it's just glitter on the floor, babe. So we got to figure out what your philosophy is. And let me give you some examples of it because some of you know my work and I can go fairly straightforward on a life philosophy. What is your life philosophies? I don't think that there's a given number. There's not 1 or 2 or 6 or 5 or 10, but you should know what your philosophy of life is. Coaches in the room, it's one of the easiest ways that I get booked all the time. When I'm with a client, they're like, oh, I'm working on this. Brendon, I'm working on the M&A deal. Brendon, I'm trying to sell the company. Brendon, we're trying to acquire this. Brendon, we hit, 7 billion. We're trying to hit 9. We're doing all these things. I'm listening. I go, okay. What's your philosophy of how you're living your life and how you're running your business? Like, huh? And now I got them. Because see, most people are working the trees, but they're missing the forest. And so what are we doing here? What's a life philosophy? I'll share my first one with you. Many of you know my story. It's mortality motivation. I, in my own life, have lost important people, and I know you have too. Some of you had experiences like me that brought you face to face with your own death, and you realized you wanted to live this life, and you wanted to love, and you wanted to matter. And see, mortality motivation to me is a simple life philosophy that says something more basic that we all know here is that life is precious. You got that gift today of your breath. Don't you forget that. You live for life. You feel blessed for life. The greatest break in most people's maturities, like their huge breakthrough happens when you finally realize you have the gift of life and the promise of death. And now you live differently. You work on yourself because you realize you only have so much time. And if you have a life philosophy that says, this moment is special, think about this. When you feel the blessing of life and you live into the blessing of life, it's a whole different game, babe. It's a whole different thing. And every time you lose perspective and you forget the preciousness of the morning you just had, that's when more existential misery and suffering creeps in, because you're like, what's it all for? Why am I going through all this? Why is this all happening? You lost perspective about the preciousness and the gifts you do have. And it's hard to bring people back to that because it sounds trite. But I do know a lot of people operating their life and they're disconnected from the shortness of it all until they get sick, until somebody dies. And I'm here to say, don't wait to live your life. Don't wait to make that decision. Don't wait to chase that dream. Don't wait to talk to her. Don't wait to apologize. Don't wait, because the worst at the end is the regret. And I've been with a lot of people who got there. And I have to be the person in the room to sometimes say, did you not anticipate? I've been with a lot of families who no one in the family ever made a will. I've been with a lot of families who were completely unprepared, not even open or understanding of the idea of the shortness of life. And I mean a lot of families. And I have to tell you here, when you feel the blessing of this moment, you know what? Everyone's like, how are you not more stressed with all this stuff you do? You know, our 2 companies alone have 140 employees now. I'm the growth advisor for 3 unicorn companies that have, I don't know, maybe 1,000 employees together now. And it's my job to keep them on path. And they're so much bigger than anything I could ever imagine. You know, I've been on the road now, I don't even know how long before I got here with you today. There's a lot going on. How are people like, don't you get overwhelmed? I go, I do. I'm so overwhelmed with the gift of this life. I got another big life philosophy. You got to stay tapped in. A life philosophy of staying tapped in. I use this in 2 ways with my sports friends. I say, don't tap out so early. With my friends in corporate America, I say, stay engaged. Don't disengage from the hardship. With my spiritual friends, I say, you got to stay tapped in. With my positive psychology friends, I go, you got to tap into that flow, right? You got to be present. You got to be in flow. You got to be in faith and connected to the moment. You got to be here. If they were put their hand up, I'm here. That's what I mean, tapped in. Life is short. I'm here, baby. Woo! I'm here. You and I go to dinner, you're going to be like, that kid was so present. He didn't look at his phone. He was talking to us the whole time. We were with him for 3 days. He just didn't stop. It's not caffeine. It's a higher energy. You can tap into whatever you want. If you're into physics, I want you to tap right in that quantum field, baby. If you're just into God, tap right into God, tap into love. If you're somebody who just like doesn't believe in any of that, tap into your breath. You can't argue with biology. Your body was built to breathe. You got to tap in. You have to learn that ultra success in life comes from being much more present and vibrant in the moment. When you see a performer upstage and they're just killing it, you can tell they're just there. They're not constructed in their brain. There's a spontaneity because they're in the moment. They're tapped in. There's something that's different. If you're struggling in your family anywhere, re-engage. If you're not feeling the flow and the joy of life, re-engage. Tap right back into that higher energy. Maybe that's faith for you. Maybe some of you had a connection with spirit or God or consciousness and you got busy and you look more at Google than you look at the sky. And sometimes we kind of got to figure that out. We got to get back into spirit, back into energy, whatever that is for you. I don't care what it is for you, but you'd better know, because I think the ultimate power is what Eckhart Tolle, the power of now, right? To be locked into now, that's supreme advantage in life, but that's also where all the magic and the joy lives.